Thank you, Lorna, for the reading there. Now, we're all very thankful for our hospital workers and all the staff that are working so hard to look after everyone, not only the medical staff, but also porters and cleaners and all sorts of people working in that area. My mum was a hospital cleaner. She worked as a domestic up in Beaver Hospital. And I often went to meet her from work. She worked from 8 in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening. And I would go down and sit on the fence at the bottom of our estate to wait for her coming out of work. Now, you couldn't see the hospital because it was off up the road and round the corner. But a few minutes after 5, I would sit there peering up the road, waiting for the workers to come out and appear round the corner. They would come in ones and twos, walking with their friends from work. And sometimes, if it was in the autumn or the winter, you wouldn't be able to make out people's faces. Of course, it was dark. But I would always be able to recognise my mum because of her walk. She was quite light on her feet. She walked quite briskly. She was lightly made up. And even though I wouldn't be able to quite make out if it was her from her face, I knew it was her because of her walk. Everybody has a distinctive walk. That's how we recognise people. So when you're going out for your next walk and you see somebody in the distance, maybe it'll be somebody you'll recognise because you'll know that that's so-and-so, that's how they walk. And today we're looking at a story about a couple of disciples who were out on a long walk, 7 miles walking from Jerusalem out to the village of Emmaus. And they meet, Jesus comes alongside them on that walk, but they don't recognise him. And we're just looking at that idea of recognition and how it is that they come to recognise Jesus in their midst. So these 2 disciples, one of them's called Cleopas, we're not told the name of the other one. They've obviously been in Jerusalem for the Passover. And it was on that weekend, on the Friday, that Jesus was crucified. And so they're in absolute turmoil. And a couple of days later, this is the Sunday, they've decided they're going to get away from where all this trouble and danger is. And they're heading out to the village where they're staying. And as they walk along, a stranger joins them. It's Jesus, of course, but they don't realise that it is Jesus walking alongside them. And he says to them, "What is it that you've been talking about there as you're walking along the road?" And that stops them in their tracks. They say, "What? Are you the only one that's here and doesn't know about the things that have been happening?" Jesus questions them, "What things?" And so they begin to tell him their story about the things with Jesus of Nazareth. And it's like they're trying to put together the pieces of a jigsaw and they're not quite fitting together. They say, "Oh, the things about Jesus." They say he was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. But our chief priests and our leaders, they crucified him. And he was this person that we had put our hope in. They say we had hoped that he was the one that was going to bring us salvation. And then they go on, "What is more, on the 3rd day, some of our women amazed us. They said that they'd been to the tomb, but they didn't find his body. That they'd seen a vision of angels that had told them that Jesus was alive. And that other friends of ours had also gone to the tomb and they didn't find Jesus' body either." And so it's like they have all these pieces going on in their minds and in their hearts that they're trying to put together, but they can't fit them together. They can't make any sense out of this. And you know, when you're doing a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, you're given the picture and you keep looking at that and referring to that to help you to put the pieces together. And Jesus begins to paint a picture, if you like, to try and help them put the pieces of the jigsaw together. We're told, starting with Moses and the prophets, Jesus began to show them how all of this was to happen and how it all fitted together. And so it's that story that's told right from the beginning about God's dealings with his people, from bringing order out of chaos, the chaos that was there when creation was forming, how he brought his people from out of slavery into freedom when they were slaves in Egypt. Then the Moses and the prophets, the scriptures go on to talk about how when the people were displaced from their land and their homes and they were in exile, God brought them home. And so Jesus is telling them, look, there's a pattern here that God is always working to bring hope out of despair and life where there seems to be only death, and bringing people home who are far from home. And then Jesus acts as if he's gone on, and the two disciples say, oh, stay with us. Sure, it's late. Come in and join us in our house. So Jesus goes in with them, and as they sit down to have a meal together, strangely, Jesus is the one that takes the bread and begins to act as the host of the meal. And he breaks the bread, he blesses it, he gives thanks for it, and he gives it to them. And it's in that moment that there's the recognition. It's Jesus. It's this one that we have come to know. We've seen him do this before. And there's that moment of recognition there for them. And then Jesus disappears. And we want to be able to recognize Jesus today in the midst of our turmoil and the way things are at the minute. And recognition isn't just, it's not just the physical recognition of someone, but it's that assurance, that knowledge, that trust that, oh, this is the person I know, and this is the person that knows me. And so that is what I think Jesus wants us to have at the minute, is to have that reassurance and trust and faith that he is with us and we can see his presence in our midst. So we want to hold on to that today. The other thing was that Cleopas wasn't alone. He was with another disciple, and after this meal with Jesus, they returned to Jerusalem. And there they find other members of their company, other disciples, and they all begin sharing their stories. It says, there they found the 11 and those with them assembled together. And they're saying, yes, it is true. The Lord has risen. He's appeared to Simon Peter. And then those two disciples, Cleopas and the other one, they begin to tell their story as well of their conversation with this stranger on the road, how he came in and sat with them, and how they suddenly realised this is Jesus in our midst. So the other thing is about having people around us, that we're not alone in this, and that we need one another. I took a wee tea break the other day and I sat looking out over the garden. We have a hedge that has grown into trees at the minute in one corner of the garden, and one of the trees got blown over a while back when it was very windy. But it hasn't quite fallen down, it's resting, it's supported by the other trees there. Not only that, as I sat there and drank my tea and watched, there was a wood pigeon sitting on the tree that had blown over. They're not a worry in the world for that wee wood pigeon sitting on the branch or sitting on the trunk. And I thought, this is just a picture for us that Jesus doesn't call us just to be lone Christians. He calls us to be part of a family, the church. And we do get blown about from time to time, and we get knocked over. Maybe we lose our faith and we lose our way a wee bit, and that's why we need the others around us supporting us. And not only that, that even in our weakness we can maybe be offering a place of respite and refuge for someone else, the way that the tree was doing that for that pigeon. So that's why it's great to be part of a church and to know that we have others that are thinking about us, praying for us, and are there for us. And that's what we want to continue on, not only in this time when we're all that wee bit more isolated and restricted, but also when we are able to meet once again. There'll be challenges for us just to think, how are we going to be church together? How are we going to be the church that Jesus Christ founded, that he died for, that he rose again for, and who he is alive with and amongst? And just how are we going to be his people in the future? So I'll leave it there today now, and we are going to have a song now, and then we will be back with Roger for our prayers. Thank you.